In this video, we're going to talk about some of the important land features. We're going to look specifically at mountains, hills, plateaus, peninsulas, islands, and plains. So these 6 land features are what we'll focus on in this video. We're going to start by looking at mountains. A mountain is an area of land with a very high elevation. So here we have a photograph of the Rocky Mountains on the eastern side of North America. You can see that these Rocky Mountains go to a very high elevation, so high in fact that it's so cold up there that there's snow on the peaks. And you can see that they go all the way down to the bottom. I think to help us understand the size of these mountains, I'm going to put a little person on the mountain. And you can see that he is teeny tiny up here. So these are very large areas of land and they can go very, very high in terms of elevation. The next land feature is a hill. And a hill is land with some elevation, but it is much, much smaller than a mountain. So here we have a photograph of a hill. It has a higher elevation than the land around it. So this area right here would be the hill. But when I put the person on the hill, you can see that he's much bigger here because a hill is going to be smaller than a mountain. One way that I like to think about it is that you would go skiing on a mountain, but you would go sledding on a hill. So a mountain is large enough that you could go skiing on it, but a hill is going to be not big enough to go skiing, but it'll be fun to go sledding on. Next, we're going to look at a plateau. A plateau is also an area of land with a high elevation, but instead of being pointed on top, it's very, very flat. So here we have a photograph of the Grand Canyon, which is in the southwestern part of North America. And we can see here several examples of plateaus. So you can see the lowest area of land is going to be all the way down here where it looks like there's a river here. So this area would be a plateau because it's higher than the lowest point and it's flat on top. We have plateaus here where it's very flat on top. We have a plateau off in the distance where it's a very high elevation and it's flat on top. And then we can see that there are people standing on this plateau where it's a high, high, high elevation, but it's flat enough on top for people to stand. So a plateau is going to be high elevation like a mountain, but instead of pointy, it's flat. Next, we're going to look at a peninsula. A peninsula is an area of land surrounded by water on 3 or most of its sides. So in this photograph of a peninsula, we can see the mainland up at the top, and then this area that's surrounded by water on most of its sides is a peninsula. It's still attached to the mainland though. So a peninsula is going to be surrounded on 3 or most of its sides. Next, we're going to look at some examples of peninsulas on the continent of North America. So there are lots of examples of peninsulas here, but the one that is the most famous for us, I think, is going to be Florida. Florida is surrounded by water on 3 sides, and it's attached to the mainland, the main continent of North America. So Florida is a peninsula. The next land feature we're going to look at is an island. An island is surrounded by water on all sides. So here we have a photograph of a teeny tiny island. So this island is right here. It has a little building on it, and it's not attached to land at all. This area of land pops up out of the water and is surrounded by water on all sides. When we look at our map of North America, our satellite image of North America, we can also see that there are lots of islands in and around North America. We have some up here all the way in the north, and then the Caribbean also has lots of islands. So this would be like Cuba right here is a country that's an island. An example of a state in the US that's an island would be Hawaii, but it is way, way, way far away on this map. You can't actually see it on this photograph of North America. The last feature we're going to learn in this video is a plain. A plain is a very flat area of land. I like to say that plains are very flat and boring. Even the name of this feature is boring, a plain, right? So here we have a photograph of a plain, and this is actually part of the Great Plains, which is in the middle of North America. You can see just how flat and boring this plain is. There are some trees, and there are some bushes, it looks like, but in general, a plain is just going to be a very flat area of land. That's it for this video. In today's video, we learned about a mountain, which is a very high elevation, a hill, which has some elevation, but it's much smaller than a mountain, a plateau, which has a high elevation, but it's flat on top, a peninsula, which is an area of land surrounded by water on 3 or most of its sides, an island, which is an area of land surrounded by water on all of its sides, and a plain, which is just very flat and boring.